Hey guys, another day on geography. So for this country, we're gonna go to Sudan. Because when I was on the Eritrea video, I said we're gonna do Sudan, so now we're gonna do Sudan, okay. Sudan is a country in northeast Africa. It's actually it used to be a big country, but it got separated from South Sudan, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, Sudan is a big country surrounded by many countries. Sudan borders Egypt to the north, Libya to the northwest, Chad to the west, Chad and the Central African Republic to the west, South Sudan to the south, Ethiopia and Eritrea to the west. The capital and largest city is Khartoum, right here on the White Nile and the Blue Nile surrounding it. As you can see, the White Nile is pretty bigger. In Omdurman is another city right on the Nile River too. It's also near Khartoum too. Khartoum is the capital of Sudan. It's a city kind of in the central of the country. And Khartoum is actually a region in Sudan, and we're going to get with the region soon. But first, let's talk about the Nile. The Nile is the biggest river in Africa, and it's the biggest river in many countries. In Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, even Ethiopia, and I think Uganda too. The Nile River passes through several countries, and Khartoum is actually lucky because on the east side of it they have the White Nile, on the west side of it, on the west side they have the White Nile, and on the east side they have the Blue Nile. Khartoum is a really, really big city. It looks small on maps, but it is another big city. Omdurman is another city in Sudan, right on the Nile, and it's like this little. This is the White Nile, the biggest. It looks like a lake, but it's a Nile. This is the river separating Khartoum and Omdurman, and we can actually see the Nile from Khartoum. Let me just get a good pic at it. The Nile is a very big river. It looks small on maps, but it's big. Look, see, the Nile is a big river. We are in Khartoum right now. And now we're going to talk about the regions of Sudan. Obviously, like I said, there's the Khartoum region, there's the Darfur region, there's the Blue Nile region, and the Blue Nile is actually right here, right on the east side of Khartoum. And then there's South Kordofan, there's Kassala, there's the northern region, and the northern region is like right here in the Nubian desert. And then there's North Darfur, which is awfully north. There's the River Nile. So basically the whole Nile is basically a region in Sudan, kind of. You could say it like that. There's South Darfur, there's Senor, there's West Darfur, there's East Darfur, there's Central Darfur, there's Al Qadif, there's Equatoria, and then Gizera and Rabak. Naila is actually the second largest city in Sudan. There's a lot of big cities in Sudan, like the first one is Khartoum, and there's Naila, there's Al Farish. The populated city is obviously Khartoum, because Khartoum is a populated city in Sudan, and there's also Port Sudan too. Port Sudan is a city right on the Red Sea. It sits on the Red Sea, and it's not really that big, I'd say. It's a city. I think we can get some pictures of it. Yeah. In Google Earth, it doesn't allow you to see much African countries. Eritrea is one of it. Djibouti, even Ethiopia. Well, actually not Ethiopia, but yeah. This is Port Sudan. And then over down there's the Red Sea. But we're in Port Sudan right now. I know it almost looks like Khartoum because the buildings. But the buildings are like a little slightly smaller. We can actually see Khartoum here right now. Actually, no, we're going to go into Central. Obviously, there's been a war in Khartoum. There's like buildings being destroyed. And I just want to say God bless all the Sudanese people. And I hope you get out of Sudan safely, and let's pray that Khartoum gets better. But anyway, this is a street in Khartoum. Most of the Khartoum streets are not like black roads. In most of the African countries with deserts, the roads are kind of sandy. But anyway, we're gonna get into history. So many of you are probably wondering, Sudan used to be the biggest country in Africa, but now here to answer your question, why is Sudan not the biggest country and Algeria became the biggest country? So before South Sudan was a country, it was actually owned by Sudan. So Sudan owned South Sudan, but then eventually they broke up because South Sudan was a region in Sudan, so they weren't that strong. So South Sudan, they wanted to be Christianities, but Sudan, they were already Islam, and they wanted South Sudan to be Islam. So Sudan said that if you don't become Islam, then we're gonna just said some threats, and then South Sudan didn't really care about what Sudan said. So then they started fighting, and then eventually South Sudan gained independence from Sudan, and now it's its own country. And Juba is actually right here. Juba isn't really a fast-growing city, but most of you might think Juba is ugly, but I promise you, Juba is very beautiful. Even if it was ugly, it's a new country, so you can expect it to be gorgeous. But in my opinion, Juba is beautiful. Same with Khartoum and other cities too. But yeah, South Sudan used to be part of Sudan, but they broke up. And then Sudan finally had to come to admit that they can't control. And actually, there's a country that even controlled Sudan too. And South Sudan, because back then, Egypt was actually controlling Sudan too. Egypt owned Sudan, and they broke apart. And then when Egypt was owning Sudan, South Sudan wasn't even a country, so Sudan owned South Sudan, and Egypt also owned Sudan too. So Egypt was a pretty big country because they owned Sudan and South Sudan. But eventually, there was war with each other, and then now they're part. And that's why now Algeria stands the biggest country in Africa. You guys might be thinking if the Democratic Republic of the Congo is the big country. I know it looks big, but it's not. Sudan is still a pretty big country though, and it's not small, it's an average size. Egypt is a good country too. They have the nice Nile, they have beautiful cities. Same for other countries too. But Sudan is a beautiful country too. And here, there's a river with Sudan and South Sudan. Here with the lovely, beautiful Eritrean border. Let's find the river. There's a river with Eritrea and Sudan separating them. It should be... Let's find it. Sometimes Google Earth changes it. That's weird. Okay. Here's the river. The river is called... What did it say? I forgot what this river is called. It's not letting me show it though. That's weird. This river had a name. Wait. Oh yeah, it's there's the Ahbra River. Let's see. Okay. This is the river separating Eritrea and Ethiopia. I mean, not Ethiopia, Sudan. Sudan is on this side, Eritrea is on this side. This river is actually called, well, right now in Eritrea, it's the Gashbarka. And even though it enters Sudan, it's still called the Gashbarka. See? We're in Sudan right now, and the river is still called Gashbarka. But now it's Marab. Marab is a river in Eritrea. Even though we're not talking about Eritrea, I'll just do this real quick. Marab is a river in Eritrea separating Eritrea and Ethiopia, and it goes all the way to the Sudanese border. So the river you're looking at right now is the Marab River. Well, Eritrea and Sudan has many rivers of countries. Now we're going to talk a little geography. Well, wait, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. Sudan also borders Central African Republic. I always see TikTok videos about people saying Sudan and Central African Republic don't border each other. I keep forgetting that, but anyway, yeah. So that's it for Sudan. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and then please like and subscribe. Bye.